Welcome to Koine Corner. Today we're going to talk about occasional documents. So the New Testament is made up of 27 different documents written by 8 or 9 different writers, depending on who you ask. And all 27 of those documents are occasional in nature. What do I mean by that? There was an occasion that prompted their writing. They had a purpose for being written. None of them are just casual correspondence or a diary or a journal. These are things that are written in the 1st century AD. Writing materials are very expensive. You usually employ an amanuensis, someone to do the physical act of writing so that it's well written out physically. Pardon me. And there's no post office. There's not a way for you to stick a stamp on it, throw it in a box, and have it go where you want it to go. Usually, you have to either carry it to the recipient or you have to commission someone to carry it. You have to pay couriers to journey to the place where the other person is and bring them the document. So it's a big deal to generate and send a written document in the 1st century. One of the clearest declarations of the occasion of one of these documents is the Gospel of Luke. Luke is the only Gentile author. We know him as Dr. Luke, a physician. So he's educated. He's not a peasant. He's an educated, higher class person. And he is a Gentile. He's a Greek, and he writes like a Greek. His writing is more complex than most of the other writers in the New Testament. So what is the occasion that prompts Luke to write? Well, he tells us precisely what it is in the first 4 verses of Luke's gospel. Not only does he tell us in the first 4 verses, he takes 4 verses to communicate in one long sentence what his reason is. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to read it from the ESV, Luke chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. Inasmuch as many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that have been accomplished among us, just as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us, it seemed good to me also, having followed all things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, that you may have certainty concerning the things you have been taught. All of that is one long sentence. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So let's take a look at a chunk of verse 1. Here in Koine, this chunk says, Poloi epikeresan, anataxasthai diageasin. Poloi, many. You've heard the term hoi polloi. This is the polloi part without the hoi. Hoi is a plural article. The plural, many. So when you hear the term hoi polloi, people are saying the many or the masses. Many, he says, epikeresan, have put their hand to anataxasthai, drawing up or writing up an account. So we're told that many people are writing accounts of the things that have come to pass, the great deeds that were done in our midst. Many are writing the Jesus story. We know from history that during the 1st century, apart from the 4 canonical Gospels, there are another 54 or 55 Gospels in circulation at that time. There may have been more that there's no fragment left of, but we know of at least 54 or 55 aside from the 4. So we know that there are a lot of Gospels, there are a lot of accounts of the Jesus story, and we also know, because we're reading Luke chapter 1, and Luke is telling us that he decided he should write one also. Well, if there are already a lot, why write another one? Let's take a look. In verse 2, we get this fragment. Kathos paradosan hemin, hoi ap arches, autoptai, kai huperitai, genomenoi, to logu. So, Kathos, just as, that introduces a simile, right? So just as or just like. If I say this is like that, I'm introducing a simile. I want you to look at these two things as being the same. Just as they gave to us. Who gave to us? Hoi aparkes autoptai. The ones from the beginning who are eyewitnesses. Auto-optai. Auto is self or same. Optai, optic, seeing. So the self-seeing, the same seeing, the eyewitnesses who are also ministers of the word gave to us an account. Just like that, I want to give to you, is what Luke says to most excellent Theophilus. So what does he want to give to them? Well, let's go to verse 3, and this chunk starts out with edoxen kamoi, and that's a great little phrase. It seemed good also to me. So just like they gave to us, it seemed also good to me that I should do this. And now we get this lengthy part of the sentence, but it's really important. Ready? Pare koluthekoti, that's quite the participle. Anothen pasin akribos kathexes soi grapse. So, parakuluthekoti, after having followed along, he says, so after having followed along, anothen, from the beginning, all things pasin, he says, akribos, carefully, kathexes, an orderly account. Carefully an orderly account, soi grapsai, to you I write. So let's put all the pieces together. From verse 1, he says there are many accounts being written. Many people are putting their hands to writing accounts. Verse 2, we got our information from the ones who were eyewitnesses and servants of the word from the very beginning. So we got our information from the most trustworthy of sources, the people who were there right from Jump Street. Then we get to verse 3, and he says, likewise, I also thought it would be good if you had a trustworthy, well-considered, orderly account. What does that imply about the many accounts that are coming into being? He says, I think it would be good for you to have a trustworthy, well-ordered account considered from the very beginning, just like we received our trustworthy, well-ordered account from the eyewitnesses and servants of the word who we could really put our confidence in. He doesn't come right out and say, you can't trust those accounts that are springing up that many have put their hands to drawing up. But he kind of implies it, doesn't he? I thought when I saw how many accounts were springing up, it would be good for you to have an account as trustworthy as the account that I received, and I received mine from the eyewitnesses. Great stuff. Let's move on to verse 4. Hina epignos perihon katekethes logon ten aspheleon, pardon me. So hina, in order that, or so that, epignos, you might know, or you should know, concerning, peri, hon katechesis, that which you have heard or you are being taught. This is the word we get catechism from, katechethes, catechism, which is teaching by question and answer. It's a verbal instruction. The trustworthiness of the words that you've been taught. So he says, in order that you may know the certainty concerning the things or the words which you have been taught, I decided to write down this orderly and well-considered account that I know is trustworthy because I got my information from the eyewitnesses from the very beginning, who are the ministers of the word, in the context of this world in which many, many accounts are springing up, because many people have put their hand to drawing up an account. So, pretty awesome stuff. What is the occasion of the writing? What is Luke's purpose for adding to this ever-growing body of accounts? He says, There are a lot of written accounts out there. I'm not looking to just write another written account. I want to give you, most excellent Theophilus, a trustworthy, well-considered, and orderly account based on the eyewitness testimony of those who were there, which has been given to us as early adopters, as followers. And I want you to have that so that you can be confident and be certain in the things that you're taught. So when you hear things, when someone starts telling you Jesus' story, you'll have an authoritative account to fall back on to verify whether or not it's trustworthy. That's the occasion of the writing of Luke's gospel, according to Dr. Luke himself. So, not every one of the New Testament documents is as clear about their occasion as is Luke or Acts, which is also written by Dr. Luke. What we know is that some of them are pretty clear. Like a few weeks ago, we looked at Galatians. Why did Paul write to the Galatians? Because he says early on, I am amazed, I'm astonished at how quickly you've jumped ship from the gospel that you first heard over to some other gospel that's no gospel at all. That's why he writes. He writes to Philemon and says, I know you're upset that Onesimus, your slave, ran away in order to come and be with me. But Onesimus is now a brother more than a slave because we're all Christ followers. And I hope that you'll treat him more like a brother than a slave. So the occasion of the letter is pleading on behalf of Onesimus, the runaway slave, to his master, Philemon. So all the documents have an occasion. Some are clearer than others. Your homework, if you choose to accept this very possible mission, is to go look at a couple of the other documents and figure out what the occasion for their writing is. If you found this beneficial, as always, I hope you'll do all the YouTube-y stuff. Like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, like the Facebook group, all that good stuff. And I look forward to seeing you when we get together again. And until then, of course, Charis Kai Reine Humin, grace and peace to you.